Hello, my name's Claire from Conscious Chemo, and in this video I'm going to share my personal story because I believe it reveals the root cause of my cancer. And when you become aware of your root cause, you can then address it. So I didn't fit the usual bill of smoking, drinking excessively, poor diet, obesity, all the normal risk factors we hear about, I don't relate to. In fact, quite the opposite. I've been in the health and wellbeing industry all my life. I've always exercised regularly. I've got a very regular yoga and meditation practice. I have a very natural, positive outlook. I eat a way above average diet, although I've improved that even more since my diagnosis. Always been health conscientious, so I don't fit the mold for somebody who has a cancer diagnosis. However, I have had an awful lot of stress in my life and past emotional traumas. So I believe that is the root cause of my cancer. I believe when your body is under stress, it triggers the stress response, which affects your hormones and also affects your body's ability to, for its immunity. It's going to suppress its immunity system. So Gab or Mate in When the Body Says No, it's a really great book to read if you feel like this is resonating with you. He also talks about a cancer personality, and I can relate a lot to that. So I went through a very challenging divorce about 6 years before my diagnosis, and I hear this a lot, people that have been through quite a big life challenging situation. Depending on your type of cancer, it might be 10 years before, it might be 5 years before. So mine was about 5 years before, and when I look back now, I can see how out of alignment I was for the few years leading up to that, as well as for the few years afterwards. But as well as navigating the divorce, which was very, very challenging, I also then that led to a court hearing, which was again very stressful, then a house move, which was very stressful. And then just after we'd reached our financial settlement, the businesses that we had been running together got a VAT review, which I was then running on my own because he had left and gone elsewhere. So I really had to pick the pieces up of the business. I had to sell them both in order to kind of manage myself, my responsibilities, and the stress of the businesses. I never would have chosen to have run them on my own. So really just too much responsibility for one person when I look back. I was also three children that I was looking after virtually all the time. So single mum to 3 kids who at that time were aged 8, 9 and 12. And they all had a lot of extracurricular activities. They were all in dance crews. So I had that responsibility of taking them to all their practices. So I had a lot on my plate. And so even though I was dealing with it as well as I possibly could, my inner landscape was being affected. And I can really see that now. My skin came up. I had a really bad skin. And although it had improved, it still wasn't right leading up to my diagnosis. And actually, since my diagnosis now, that it's improved, it's gone back to the best it's ever been. So during my chemotherapy, my skin has actually improved, and it's because of the stepping up I did for my nutrition, supplements to support the body because of the stress it had been through. And I did it for a sustained period. I think before the cancer diagnosis, I tried lots of short-term things to help the skin, but I didn't do anything for a long time. And so obviously I had the biggest motivation ever when I got my cancer diagnosis. And then that meant I then did my, detoxing, really stepped up the nutrition and supplements on a long-term basis, and now I feel fantastic. I feel better now than I did before my cancer diagnosis in the majority of ways. And I know that's combined nutrition, supplements, but also my mental health surrendering. And I also did some work to address my past emotional traumas and stresses. So I think I'd processed a lot of my divorce. I'd let so much go, but there was something I still hadn't quite let go of. And so I did go back to my counsellor that I was seeing through the divorce, and we really saw some patterns there from my childhood, and I hadn't hadn't been able to see those before. So I think this diagnosis has really helped me to see more clearly some patterning in my earlier years that's helped me understand perhaps what's happened during my relationship and the breakdown of the marriage. And that's been really healing. So that feels very liberating and is a really important part of, I think, the healing journey. I also did the Journey Therapy by Brands and Bays, which I would highly recommend for anybody who feels that their diagnosis may be linked to emotional stress and trauma. I found it very, very powerful. I'm actually going to do another one this week. So I really feel like I addressed the stress and the trauma from my breakdown of my marriage, my divorce, the stress of the businesses, and then this VAT review that landed on my lap that I had to deal with still hasn't concluded. It's been going for 3 years. It has been the root cause of a lot of stress. It does feel very, it's very frightening when you're getting these brown envelopes coming through the door and you haven't done anything knowingly untoward. In fact, the conclusion of my investigation was that we hadn't done anything untoward, but there had been a change in law that did affect the business model, which I had been advised by both the Federation of Small Businesses and my accountant that it didn't. So there had been a misunderstanding. And I was getting bills, for £160,000. So I've let all that fall away and handed it over to my accountant, because I know that the most important thing for me is my reduction in stress. So that's my kind of more recent life situations that I've had to really let go of and free myself from within. And I also had, I've had a lot of trauma around childbearing. I had a stillborn baby, a son, Harrison, who would be 16 now, so quite a few years ago. I feel like I did do a lot of healing at the time, but actually the journey therapy that I've done more recently has brought more to light some guilt that I was carrying that I wasn't aware of. So again, we can think we've dealt with past traumas, but perhaps we haven't, and then that reflects on our cellular level. My daughter was also very, very ill when she was 6. She's now 16, so that's 10 years ago, or 15. And she was really, really ill. And again, so that would have been affecting me on an inner level, even though I dealt with it as well as I felt I could. And in fact, all the time I was trying to be really strong for her, it persisted. And then the moment I just surrendered to it all and, stopped trying to say it was going to be great, I just didn't know. From that day on, she never went back into hospital. So there is definitely a healing power in surrendering to whatever is. And I've experienced that now in multiple situations. And that's really empowering. And then I've also had a lot of operations around my cervix. I had SIN2 on my cervix, had that removed in my mid-20s, and then I had to have stitches put in my cervix to have my second and third child. And I believe that's why I wasn't able to carry my son, is because my cervix, it wasn't to do with me. So I think that was the guilt I was probably carrying. And then more recently, so I've been doing a course this year in somatic yoga for healing and recovery. And that's really helped me, alongside my spiritual counsellor that I've been seeing, has really helped me to see patterns in my teenage years and situations in my teenage years that have been unhelpful when it comes to men. My choice in men, or the situations I've been in with men, I think there's some old or subconscious conditioning that's been holding me back. And perhaps that links into other aspects of my life as well. So I'm actually now embarking on some more healing to really look at that male energy, to balance the male and female energy in my body, so that I can really move forwards being as free from any negative energy that I could possibly be holding in my body. And I think that is really empowering. And then looking at the outdated stories, beliefs, and projections that have been put on us through our parenting, through the institutionalisation of churches and of schools. And of course, they have their blessings and they have their benefits, but I also feel that they do have their limitations. And so that's really been, for me, I think, the most important thing that I have done throughout this last 12 months and what I'm going to continue to be doing. Because I believe that was the root cause of my cancer. So it's looking at the way I've behaved, or for example, I feel like I've always been a bit of a people pleaser. The hats that we wear, going with the flow, not making my own decision. So, whereas this cancer diagnosis has really got me to tune into myself, so I feel more empowered, so I am in my alignment, so I am making my own decisions. So I'm getting to know myself more and more on a deeper level. And that is where the empowerment, I believe, comes from. And then the outdated stories and beliefs can fall away. And so within that, there's a lot of work around forgiveness and compassion, both to myself and to others. And that has been so powerful and so helpful. So if anybody's resonating with any of this, then I would encourage you to embark on your own journey of looking at where you can release any past traumas and stresses, and then free your energy up for amazing things for your future. So I have also been listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks and creative visualization and law of abundance, which I've been engaging with for a long time. But I do think that there's some power in releasing and letting go from old traumas that we will address when we are ready to. So I feel like I've been working backwards, and now I'm ready to kind of go back to my very earlier years. So I hope you found this interesting. Perhaps there's information you can use to apply to your own selves for your own work. With all of this, chakra meditations, yoga nidras, meditating and breath work is really powerful, as is coming back to the present moment. So there's a yoga practice. So if you are looking to embark on a yoga practice, please feel free to go to my online studio, harmoniseonlinestudio.com. Practice with me. I'm going to be adding content on there all the time. There's a first 30 days are free if you want to give it a go and see if it resonates with you. But hopefully there's also other resources that I've shared within this video that you can tap into. Good luck with your healing journeys. I really do hope you find the freedom and the liberation that I have managed to feel. And really just reminding you that the power does lie within you, and there's so much you can do to help yourselves. If you've got any questions or you feel that I can help you in any way, please do reach out, and I'm sending you all so much love and light and high vibrations. Clare from Conscious Chemo, Harmonise Training Academy and harmoniseonlinestudio.com.